Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com.
The Alien Cosmic Expo will be held in Brantford, Ontario, June 26, 27, 28, and will feature 24 internationally acclaimed experts and researchers of UFOs, crop circles, alien abductions, and much more in this 3-day 2015 summer Canadian event. Experts in the field of extraterrestrials and alien encounters, out-of-body experiences, past life regression, soul reading, psychic, and mediumship will all be presented with professionalism, integrity, and credibility, making the Alien Cosmic Expo the largest event of its kind in Canada for 2015. The exhibitor hall will feature a spectacular lineup of gifted mediums, psychics, astrologers, channelers, aura photography, healers, as well as books, DVDs, alternative health products, crystals, jewelry, and much more, completing the venue with something for everyone. For all information and to purchase your tickets for the Alien Cosmic Expo, go to www.aliencosmicexpo.com. That's www.aliencosmicexpo.com.
Engines that can run on anything from alcohol to garbage or water, or carburetors that can get hundreds of miles to the gallon, or electric or magnetic engines that can practically run forever. You don't know about them because if they were to come into use, they'd put the oil companies out of business. The concept of the internal combustion engine has been obsolete for over 50 years. But because of the oil cartels and corrupt government regulation, we and the rest of the world have been forced to use gasoline for over 100 years. Big business is primarily responsible for destroying the water we drink, the air we breathe, and the food we eat. They have no care for the world they destroy, only for the money they make in the process. How many oil spills can we endure? Millions and millions of gallons of oil are now destroying the ocean and the many forms of life it supports. Among these is plankton, which supplies 60 to 90% of the Earth's oxygen. It supports the entire marine ecosystem, which forms the basis of our planet's food supply. But the plankton is dying. I thought, well, let's go to some remote state or country, anywhere on Earth. But in doing a little research, I realized that these people broker toxic waste all over the world. They basically control the legislation, and in fact, they control the law. The law says no company can be fined over $25,000 a day. If a company is making $10 million a day by dumping lethal toxic waste into the ocean, it's only good business to continue doing this. They influence the media so that they can control our minds. They've made it a crime to speak out for ourselves, and if we do so, we're called conspiracy nuts and we're laughed at. We're angry because we're all being chemically and genetically damaged, and we don't even realize it. Unfortunately, this will affect our children. We go to work each day, and right under our noses we see our car and the car in front of us spewing noxious and poisonous gases that are all accumulative poisons. These poisons kill us slowly, even when we see no effect. How many of us would have believed if we were told 20 years ago that on a certain day we wouldn't be able to see 50 feet in front of us? That we wouldn't be able to take a deep breath because the air would be a mass of poisonous gas? That we wouldn't be able to drink out of our faucets, that we'd have to buy water out of bottles? The most common and God-given rights have been taken away from us. Unfortunately, the reality of our lives is so grim nobody wants to hear it. Now I've been asked what we can do. I think we need a responsible body of people that can actually represent us rather than big business. This body of people must not allow the introduction of anything into our environment that is not absolutely biodegradable or able to be chemically neutralized upon production. And finally, as long as there's profit to be made from the polluting of our earth, companies and individuals will continue to do what they want. We have to force these companies to operate safely and responsibly, and with all our best interests in mind, so that when they don't, we can take back our resources and our hearts and our minds and do what's right.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and listened around the world on Starcom Radio Network. Don't forget Ed Till's show from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Monday through Friday on Starcom Radio Network. Real Music Weekend, and then Monday through Friday, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, the X-Zone Radio Show with yours truly, Rob McConnell. X-Zone Nation, my guest this hour is Len KASTEN. We're going to be talking to Len about the secret journey to the planet Serpo. Now, Len holds a BA degree from Cornell University, where he majored in psychology and minored in literature. While in the U.S. Air Force, he experienced a UFO encounter that had a transformative effect on his life. In 1966, Len began writing feature articles for Atlantis Rising magazine. By 2010, he had written 52 articles, including 8 cover stories. Over that period, Len attended the annual week-long UFO Congress in Laughlin, Nevada, where he met and attended the lectures of hundreds of UFO investigators, researchers, and writers from all over the world. His first book, Secret History of Extraterrestrials, was published by Bear & Company in 2011. His new book, Secret Journey to Planet Serpo, published in 2013, has now been on the publisher's top 10 list for many months. Len recently acquired his MFA degree from the National University. Joining me now is Len KASTEN. And Len, welcome back to the X-Zone.
Hi, Rob. Nice to be with you.
Nice being with you. Congratulations on your new book, but what is Planet Serpo?
It's a planet in a distant star system. 39 light years away, to be exact.
Now, I understand that on July 16th, 1965, a massive alien ship from the Zeta Reticuli star system landed at a Nevada test site north of Las Vegas. The alien visitors, known as Ebens, welcomed 12 astronaut-trained military personnel aboard their craft for the 10-month journey to their home planet, Serpo, 39 light years away. Is this real or is this fiction?
It's real. It really happened.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just one of the stories that's been hidden from us for so long, but that one is a particularly important one because it opens up Pandora's box of other information that we would have had no knowledge about.
You know, Len, you've been working on this for so long. Stanton Friedman, Richard Boylan, and the list goes on and on and on. Stephen Bassett with the Paradigm Research Group, trying to get the truth embargo lifted. And yet, are you guys any closer to getting the truth out there?
Absolutely, we are. We've gone way beyond lights in the sky at this point now. That's no longer even talked about in the circles that I'm involved with now. We know of so many ET races that we're dealing with now that it's unbelievable.
How many different races?
Well, I've heard numbers of around 57, but I'm not sure. The only ones that I know of, because I've done the research, are the Ebens. However, I also know about the tall whites, who Charles Hall wrote about.
Yeah.
We know about the reptilians that David Icke wrote about. That's a reality. We know about many, many different ET races. Probably the most important ones, though, that we should know about are the reptilians. And I think David Icke really got onto that and did the world a service by pointing that out.
They're the bad guys.
Although he wasn't the first one.
Mm-hmm.
He was not the first one. Stuart Swerdlow really talked about him before David Icke was involved with him.
Tell me, what is their goal? What is their mission? Why all the secrecy?
Well, there's a lot at stake here. We're talking about billions of dollars to start with in terms of oil and energy and whatever they want us to do, banking. I mean, these are the things that they control, and the ETs are involved with them in this control. So there's a lot at stake. The military has a lot at stake in this because of the weaponry and because of the technology. I mean, it's so complicated at this point that if they were to make an admission tomorrow about all of this, nobody would believe it because it's just gotten to the point where the complexity of it is unreal. Steve Bassett knows a lot about it, but even he doesn't have all the answers, but he has a lot of them.
So are the ETs and those working with ETs the puppet masters, the forces behind the curtains that manipulate the political arena that we see?
Well, first thing you've got to do is differentiate between type of ETs.
Okay.
Because there are good guys and there are bad guys, and we have to understand that this universe we live in is very complicated, just like the solar system, just like our planet is diverse, and there are good people and there are good guys and bad guys. And there are some very, very bad guys involved with our military. So we have to understand that, and that's one main reason why the military would, of course, be so reluctant to disclose anything. And then there's the exchange of weaponry and technology that goes on between the ETs and the military, and with our large corporations like the aerospace industry, the ones that Eisenhower warned us about, the military-industrial complex. And some of the phenomena that are involved and that we've learned about are so incredible. Things like interdimensional travel and time travel and teleportation. I mean, these are subjects that the average person in the street would laugh at. So how are you going to all of a sudden reveal this information to them? See the problem?
I can see the problem, but what I see as a solution is just get the information out there, make it undeniable. For example, why don't the ETs just land and get it over with?
Now, which group of ETs are we discussing about?
Any group.
Right now?
Any group.
No, wait a minute. Wait. First of all, they all have agendas. Now, the bad guys are not going to do that. Why would they do that? They operate from secret places.
All right.
The good guys are non-interventionists. They don't believe in intervening in our affairs. They believe we have to take the bull by the horns and do it ourselves. They'll give us help. They'll give us information. Mm-hmm. They have been visiting us for many years. They talked to Adamski way back in the 50s and made contact with people in the 50s and the 60s. They've even been here and met with our governments. So they've tried to help. As a matter of fact, they were of tremendous help in World War II because the other guys were on the other team. So that was a whole different ball game right there.
Okay. Let's take a look at World War II. Why wasn't there any spurt in technology during World War II if one side was being aided by the good aliens and the other side was being aided by the bad aliens?
Well, I think you must know by now that Hitler and his scientists were on to tremendous advances in technology. Not only the V-2 rockets and all of that, but anti-gravity spacecraft, flying saucers, jet planes long before anybody even heard of jet travel. Mm-hmm. I mean, where were they getting all this from?
Well, is humanity so dumb that we couldn't have come up with this technology ourselves?
Well, it's not a question of dumb. It's a question there was no precedent for it. None of our scientists were onto this. As a matter of fact, even the atom bomb was started in Germany. Mm-hmm. And we knew about it, and we knew what progress they were making, fortunately. But fortunately, we had guys like Einstein on our team. So, if he had chosen to stay in Germany instead of coming here, it would have been a whole different ball game right there. Fortunately, he left because of Hitler. So, and people like Nikola Tesla, who worked on the Philadelphia experiment and invisibility, was a very staunch American patriot, even though the Germans tried to get him to go to work for them. So, we had a lot of luck working for us, and a lot of very, very principled.
But why would the Germans try and get Tesla to work with them if the Germans had the bad aliens on their side?
Well, they knew what Tesla was capable of. They knew what he was capable of.
But
now,
couldn't
if you want to talk about the bad aliens, it gets very complicated because they were dealing with an underground civilization of aliens that don't look anything like we do. Mm-hmm. Okay, they have scaly skin. They have slits for eyeballs. They look like reptilians, and they are reptilians.
How do we know?
Dealing with them,
So
dealing with them was a very complicated matter. They didn't just sit down and have meetings,
How do we know they really exist, Len? How do we know they're just not science fiction that is being played out in real time?
Well, all I can tell you is to read all of David Icke's books first, and then we can discuss it, because
I've had David Icke.
He lays out the case. He lays out his case very, very carefully, and he did his research.
Yeah, I've had David on the show. I've talked to David many times.
Okay.
But when it comes to the hardcore proof, it's missing. The theory is there. The theory is there. The books are there, but the proof is missing.
Now, what sort of proof are you looking for?
Do you really think that the royal family is part reptilian?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
And that's one of the.
I know. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Ike seems to. They haven't objected strenuously to Ike's revelations.
Well, that's because they don't take him seriously.
Well, sure. Possibly. I don't know.
Didn't Ike also say that George Bush was a reptilian?
I think he did. Yeah.
So I'd like
if you want to identify the bad guys, that's my choice right there, and there's a lot of evidence for it.
What's the evidence, Len?
Oh God, let's just take fascism as in by itself, okay?
Okay.
That movement was so brutal and cruel and merciless that those could not have been human beings. They had to be ETs involved with that. I mean, when you read about what was done by the Japanese in the prison camps and the experimentation on humans,
right,
and what the Germans did, those could not be members of the human race.
Well,
we're dealing with a different race entirely.
Well, what about the CIA experimentation on unknowing, unsuspecting patients at the Allen Memorial Hospital in Montreal,
I know all about that. I wrote an article on that for Atlantis Rising magazine.
You know, so what's the difference? You know, what makes one country better than the next? Do we blame all the negativity that mankind can muster on the influence of extraterrestrials? Or are we using the extraterrestrial factor as an scapegoat?
You know, you've heard the term fifth column, right? You know what the fifth column is? What is the fifth column? Well,
explain it to our listeners.
Well, during the Spanish Civil War, Franco used that term. He was the first one to come up with it. He said, "I only have 4 columns of military. I don't need a fifth column because the fifth column is inside my enemy camp." In other words, they are winning the war for me in the enemy's own camp.
Mm-hmm.
They've infiltrated my enemy, and they are really on my team. Well, the aliens also have a fifth column going here of people that they know can be bought, people they know that they are perhaps part reptilian. You know about the Illuminati, right? You've heard that term, right?
Yeah.
Well, who are the Illuminati? What are the Illuminati? They own all the banks. We know that, right? You're aware of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They own the high-tech oil companies and the military-industrial complex. They're tied in with the military in many ways. Now, these are people that are easily, let's just say, bought because they feel that there's something in it for them when the bad guys do win, ultimately. So they constitute a fifth column. And when you have a fifth column that is that good, you almost don't need the 4 columns anymore because they've infiltrated our society to the point where they have positions of immense power, immense money, immense control. I mean, when we talk about mind control, what are we talking about when we talk about mind control? We're talking about the media. We're talking about when people are mind controlled, you can pretty much get them to do anything you want them to do. So all of this is operating. All of this is operating in our society. If we think it's not, then we're dreaming.
But where do you draw the line between fantasy and reality in all of this?
Well, I don't know what you mean by that, really.
Well, all right. Here, I'll give you
who draws the line?
Let me give you an example. We have all this talk about the New World Order. We have all the talk about the Illuminati. We have all the talk about reptilians. We have all the talk about the Greys. We have all the talk about all the different species of aliens that are on this planet. Where's the smoking gun that proves all this beyond the shadow of the doubt?
All the people that are looking for proof beyond the shadow of a doubt really amaze me because when you have all the proof you need, then there is no more mystery, there is no more suspicion.
Right.
Well, we're not going to get that level of proof. Where do you think that level of proof is going to come from? Too many people have vested interest in not giving you that level of proof. And too many people have a vested interest in covering up that level of truth. So where are you going to get it from?
Well,
you're going to have to depend on writers like perhaps myself, perhaps Jim Mars, perhaps Dolan.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you're going to have to get it, and you're going to have to use your own intuition.
But what you guys are saying is, this is my side of the story. How do we know for a fact that, it's like, okay, there's all these different conspiracies, cover-ups, theories. How do we know it's not the people who are within the UFO community, within the alien abduction community, within the conspiracy groups that are actually responsible for maintaining this conspiracy, this cover-up? Because if the truth ever was to get out there, maybe it's not the government. Maybe it's not anyone else except this group who maintains the belief, because if, in fact, the truth was ever to come out and expose that there is nothing there, where would they be? What would they do?
Well, I don't know too many of them that are making much money at this. If that's what you're implying.
No, I'm not implying the money aspect at all, Len, because, I know you guys. You don't make a lot of money at it. You're doing this out of the passion. But how do we know that this as long as the conspiracy is alive, the topic keeps going and going and going. How do we know that there aren't, like all the purported evidence, all the alleged evidence, no one ever comes up with anything besides a theory. I love Charles Hall. There's no pictures. He says that he's gone downtown Las Vegas with these extraterrestrials that land. No pictures. I've talked to people who claim to have had these experiences. They've gone on spaceships that are 600, 700 miles wide, 3 miles, 4 miles high. They've zipped them around the universe, the solar system, and bring them back. Talk to David Icke, you get the alien factor, the reptilian factor. To people like myself and the people that I talk to on a daily basis, it makes no sense.
Well, certainly, you've seen photographs going all the way back to George Adamski, haven't you?
Oh, sure.
George Adamski actually videoed them from the front porch of his friend's house in Maryland, and that video has been available for over 60 years.
But how many?
I myself saw that, and I saw the photo in her house.
Was that photo analyzed? Was the photo analyzed?
It was as clear as could be. She took it out of a drawer. She took it out of a drawer in her house just to show me. She didn't send it into the newspaper.
Why not?
She said, because I was a guest in her house, and she knew I was interested in George Adamski, so she opened his drawer and showed me the photograph.
I see. Look, there's so many
videos of. First of all, you know about the Billy Meyer videos.
Sure.
There's been a lot of videos. Every night, just go to YouTube and see thousands of videos.
Yeah, but there's a lot of crap on the internet. Like, it's the biggest septic tank that man has ever created. There's more.
I think what's going to have to come into play, especially maybe in your case, is a big dose of intuition, and really, certain people just know when something's true.
Yeah, and a lot of people know.
It just meets an inner requirement that this is true. Why? Well, first of all, it lines up with A, B, C, D, E. It would have to be very strange. It would have to be very weird to line up with all of those other things. And when you have so many people testifying to the same thing, who are getting it from independent sources, you've got to say, well, wait a minute. Even a lawyer would attach significance to that. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't he?
He might.
I mean, why do so many people go to hear these lectures? Why did 1,500 people turn up at the UFO Congress in February in Phoenix? They didn't have enough seats for all the people.
Why do so many people go to rock concerts? There are many rock concerts where there's not enough seats for the people either. The people want to be part of something. And it seems that certain people fall into certain categories, like the people who are interested in the Bigfoot, the people who are interested in ghosts. They don't really care about what happens in the UFO community, and the Sasquatch people really don't care about what happens in the ghost community. It's all these separate little cells. It's
right. So I might understand that you do not believe that we've been visited. Is that the story here? You don't believe that?
I really don't.
You do not?
No.
After all the people you've interviewed and talked to? And
sure, because no one has given the proof. I want proof. I want to believe, Len. I want to believe.
Well,
but I want the proof.
When they present 100% proof to you, they will, of course, have also laid it out in front of the entire population of the planet. So you will be, along with everyone else, you'll know the truth then. But you're going to have to wait till then, I'm afraid.
Well, you know what,
You
Len?
have to wait till...
The other side of the coin. What happens if that proof is never laid out?
Well, when you come right down to it, the aliens are in control of who reveals the truth and who
How
doesn't.
do we know that, Len? How do we know that?
Because all they'd have to do is reveal themselves completely, and then, of course, it's all over. Since they haven't done that, except by flying saucers in the sky, then we'd have to wait till that happens, I guess. Because certainly the military-industrial complex is not going to do it for you. Let's get that straight. They're not going to.
But maybe
there's
there's
not going to
nothing.
be any disclosure.
But
Not going
maybe
to be a disclosure.
maybe there's nothing to disclose.
Well, you can believe that if you choose. I mean,
Let-
I can't stop you from believing that.
Let me, and you know what? I respect your belief. But let me ask you this question. With everything that is going on with computer hacking, Edward Snowden, for example, wouldn't it be to the advantage of a country not friendly to Canada or the United States to hack into a government computer and find the proof that so many UFO believers believe that is being suppressed and hidden by the various government agencies? Wouldn't it be to their advantage to get this information, put it on the internet, and prove to the people of either Canada or the United States that they have been lied to, that their government has lied? Here is the proof. That would cause chaos.
Isn't that what what's that guy's name in England? Isn't that what he did? He hacked into conversations between two American spaceships.
Oh, he
I mean,
claimed
what
he
else
did.
What?
He claimed he did.
Well, he released all that information. He's wanted here for doing it. They want him extradited to the United States.
I don't think we're talking about the same case here.
England has said no. We're not sending him over there.
Why not?
But
Like,
they chose not to. They chose not to let him go. They chose to keep him there.
We look at the big picture, and you can see A, B, C, D, E, F, G lining up. I look at it, and to me it looks like 1, 7, 13, 69, 27, 2,665, 4. That's how I see it. I would love to be able to sit down and talk to every one of you and say, you know what, I can now understand what you see and what you believe and why you believe it. But I can't.
Well, it sounds to me, Rob, like you're not going to be satisfied till everyone else in the world is.
Well,
You'll be right in. You're not going to be ahead of the crowd. That's for sure. Because
why do I need
you're not
to?
Going to be
Why do I need to be
You're not
ahead?
going to be satisfied till you get absolute proof. Well, you don't need to be. You do not need to be. However, if you think there's an advantage to knowing this information, which millions of people do, then you would pursue it more actively.
Len, in your opinion, what is the percentage of the world's population that really believe in the government conspiracy, UFOs, extraterrestrials?
The last numbers that I saw, that percentage was somewhere around 70%, as I recall.
Now, that's out of the world population?
Yeah. Well, Americans anyway. I don't know about the world population.
Yeah, well. If that is true, all right, 70%, let's use that. And if the extraterrestrials and the military complex and the powers to be who were suppressing this truth away from the public, would they have not shot down that poll? Would they have not manipulated to show that next to no one believes? I don't know.
You mean change the data?
Why not? If they can control the media, then they can control the data.
You know, because they believe that the best way to keep a secret is to make it wide open, and that things are hidden in plain sight.
Mm-hmm.
They believe that, and they operate that way.
But if they keep everything in plain sight, wouldn't we see the extraterrestrials walking on the street? Wouldn't we have more concrete proof?
If they know how to mind control the population through the media, through advertising, through everything you see and hear, they don't need to worry about it. They know your mind control. They're dealing with people who have been dumbed down to the point of Dumb and Dumber, and I mean, people that Jay Leno would speak to in the street didn't even know the most elementary facts of geography. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I did.
Jaywalking. People didn't know anything. I mean, the population has been dumbed down to the point where that even asking the question is unimportant anymore.
Is it a matter of the population being dumbed down, or is it a matter of the population now focusing in on their own needs, their own family, their own situation?
Well, that's always the case. That's always the case. In fact, when Stephen Greer did that revelation at the National Press Club, he had witnesses from the inner ranks of the intelligence agencies, the military, everything. Were you familiar with that National Press Club meeting? You know about that, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's out there on YouTube. Well, you know what? If anything came close to disclosure, that had to be it. Yet the next day, people just woke up in the morning and were beset with their own problems of finances and romance and everything. So they didn't have time to think about ETs or aliens. That just wasn't on their agenda. And most people feel that way.
Yeah.
Most people are just completely obsessed with their own problems.
So are you saying that?
Only ones,
are you saying that most people don't care about the ET factor, the aliens?
Exactly.
Then how come you said a few minutes ago that 70% of people surveyed believed?
Yeah. If you ask them, do they believe? They'll say they do agree. Yes, probably. But then they go back to their own personal problems because it's not an important enough issue. It doesn't threaten their existence. It doesn't threaten their income. It doesn't threaten anything. Their marriage. It's just another little piece of information until it becomes a major danger, perhaps a possible war of the worlds. Then they'll be interested.
Do you think that would ever happen?
Then they'll get interested.
Do you think that would ever happen?
What's that?
Do you think a war of the worlds scenario is a possibility?
It's not a war of the worlds scenario as presented by Steven Spielberg, no, or by H.G. Wells. No, that's not the kind of war of the worlds we're talking about. It's a much more subtle war of the worlds. It's affected through mind control, through influence with the highest echelon of government and military. It's the kind of thing that is so subtle that you wouldn't consider it a war of the worlds, no, until it's over, until it's finished.
So it's more of a psychological warfare?
I don't even know if that word is appropriate,
Really?
frankly. If a person is mind control, are they under psychological warfare?
Well, if they're under mind control, that means someone is controlling their mind without their consent.
Yeah, exactly. They're told what to think, more or less, about everything. Starting with school, starting with movies, starting with, you name it, those are the things they think about because those are the things they're expected to think about.
So
that's mind control.
Okay,
that's mind control.
If somebody picks up a book on ufology and they read it, is that a form of mind control?
No, of course they're breaking a pattern. They're thinking outside the box.
So does that mean those people...
They become dangerous. They become dangerous.
So people who are entering into the arena of ufology or extraterrestrial existence, they're reading material that is published by authors like yourself, Jim Mars, and the list, Nick Redfern, and the list goes on and on and on. So are you guys at some point, based on the fact that they're reading your book, conducting mind control on the reader?
I look at it the other way, Rob. I look at it as perhaps we're breaking out of the mind control pattern. Because the mind control pattern says, what? You believe in little green men? Are you crazy? You don't bring that subject up at a respectable cocktail party, you know. So is that being mind controlled or is that not being mind controlled?
Once again, it's whatever side of the coin you're tossing for. Because, you see, the way I see it, and this is what I was getting to before, as long as the conspiracy is kept alive, the stories go on. But once the conspiracy is put to rest, game over, topic over. Let's move on to something else. And I think what has happened over the years, going back to 1947, is that it's not the media that has dumbed everybody down when it comes to UFOs, extraterrestrials, and everything else. It's the UFO community itself. Because of all the influx of contradictory information that has been spewed out by the internet, by books, by television programs, by DVDs. You know, the way I look at it, and I could be wrong, the UFO community is no different than the people they are pointing the finger at as those who are committing the brainwashing or the mind control. What's the difference?
Well, I don't know how you come to that conclusion. I really don't, because there's a totally different mindset, completely different.
All right, you're saying that the government and the aliens are basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, mind controlling the population, dumbing us down, right?
I would put that, I would say that the Illuminati are doing that, yes.
Okay, and the Illuminati consists of who or what?
The top echelons in the world, okay. Financial, whatever.
With extraterrestrials
bankers,
included?
Executives.
With the ETs?
According to David Icke, the Illuminati are the front men for the ETs.
Okay.
And I happen to agree with them.
All right. So they're dumbing us down using the mainstream media and all the resources that they have based on their power, based on their money, based on the ETs behind the scene helping them. And then on the other side of the coin, you've got the people who are saying, well, that's true. They're really there. So here you've got John Q. Public in the middle saying, well, wait a minute, hold on here. You're telling us, and I'm talking about the UFO community, that all this negative stuff is going on behind the scenes. And yet you guys, the UFO community, are telling us that this is real. So, you know, you don't hear any other side coming out with all this Illuminati stuff and the conspiracies, the cover-ups, except the UFO community.
Okay.
So the way I look at it, you guys are the guys who are dumbing the public down. You guys are the guys that are saying, yes, there's 82, I heard that figure of 82 different types of extraterrestrials that are here, that the extraterrestrials are working behind the scenes, the extraterrestrials are in bed with the governments. It's not the government, it's not anyone else who's putting this information out there except the UFO community. And yet the UFO community cannot give any proof whatsoever to substantiate these claims. I don't get it.
Even after they have given the proof, by the way, and by the way, the proofs are abundant. I don't even want to get into that because there's so many. I don't know where to begin. But
Okay.
even after they've done that, it's like the man behind the curtain. The people will turn away and go back to their concern about where does my next meal come from. I'm no longer I'm in the 99%. I have to worry about where my next meal is coming from. I have to worry about my divorce. I have to worry about where my children are. Are they going to start thinking about extraterrestrials under those conditions? I don't think so. So as long as the powers that be can keep them in that state of anxiety and concern, they have nothing to worry about. Okay? Let me put it that way. That's the best way to put it to you.
All right, but
Okay? As long as they can keep people concerned about their next meal, their love life, their health, and all these things, by the way, they are attacking our health too, by the way, then they don't have to worry about anything. There's no disclosure that's going to happen or be necessary.
all right, but let me ask you this very simple question, Len. Disclosure happens. What will change? What are the changes that are going to change this planet into being a better planet if, by some miracle, disclosure happens? The truth embargo is lifted.
How do you feel about free energy? Would that excite you?
Oh, sure. You know what would really excite me?
Doing away with oil, doing away with reliance on oil from Saudi Arabia.
I agree. That would be great. But you know what?
Okay. Well, what if ETs could give us that?
What if instead of spending all this useless money on going to Mars, was spent on free energy? What about all this useless money that the space program is spending on?
But free energy is here. We've had free energy for 50 years.
Okay. All right. So why isn't the scientific community, instead of doing everything else, focus on free energy and make it happen? If it's already here, why aren't we using it?
Well, Nikola Tesla tried to give it to us. A guy named Keeley tried to give it to us 60 years ago, and they shot at him in the street, almost killed him. Come on, you think they're going to let that happen? Are they going to give us free energy while they can still sell us oil? Why would they do it? Why would they do that? Are they going to give us perfect health while they can still make money from cancer? Why would they do that? You know, can't you see the pattern here?
Yeah, I can see a pattern, but unfortunately it's not that same pattern that I see. That's not the same pattern I believe in. It's not the pattern that there is evidence for. I agree the oil cartels are screwing us royally. I agree with that 100%. All we need to do is be self-reliant, and that would take care of a lot of the problems. Instead of, importing oil, fine, let's work on the free energy. If you say it's there, if the voice of the people is so powerful, and if people depend on the internet so much for getting all these different causes to come to fruition, why can't they do the same with free energy?
Well, you tell me that, because the powers that be against it are just too powerful. Look, this team that we sent to Serpo, 12 of them, 12 men who were all military people, observed the way they lived there. They had free energy on Serpo. Mm-hmm. They had anti-gravity. Their craft hovered above the surface of the planet. They didn't have wheels. Mm-hmm. They had all that. And so it's common in the universe. But here the forces that keep it under wraps are so powerful and so strong that people are just not going to get it. It's not going to be given to us, because the elite, the 1%, have too much at stake. So they're just going to keep the 99% in the dark, as long as they choose to. That's the way I look at it.
If the powers to be have such a tight lid on this, as you claim and others claim, Len, how are you able to get the information on Serpo?
You got to dig it out. It's there. You just have to dig it out, and you have to put it together with other little pieces of the puzzle. You have to evaluate the source. Are these people reliable? John Kennedy, was he reliable? I think so, because I think he had tremendous integrity. People, you have to look at the people that are releasing it and evaluate them and say, is this somebody that's likely to be telling the truth, and what has he got to lose by it, and what has he got to gain by it? And if he doesn't have anything to gain by it, then he must be doing it because he wants the public to know it. I mean, it's just a matter of putting things together. That's all. That's all it is. Not accepting with the easy answers that you're given on the news, on the nightly news, and in your textbooks in college, And if you want to go on believing in evolution instead of ETs, go ahead. Go ahead. Believe that we started 200 million years ago with the dinosaurs. These are the kinds of things that you just have to put together in your own mind, and nobody's going to do it for you.
Wow. A lot to think about.
Yeah.
So tell me, what are you going to be...
Anyway, if you want to know about Serpo, what'd you say?
No, I was just going to say, when you're at the Alien Cosmic Expo, what are you going to be talking about? You're going to be talking about planet Serpo?
Yes, I am. That's my story. That's the story I've chosen to focus on because so many other things open up as a result of it. And it was an exciting era, an exciting event, sending 12 Americans to a planet 39 light years away. And what they learned and what our relationship is with that particular group of ETs is very important. That particular group of ETs happens to be a very friendly group, and they've helped us in a lot of ways, but the information they've given us has remained secret, unfortunately.
And this is going back to 2005.
What 2005 is when it was revealed.
Oh, I see.
By the DIA.
So this is going back to
event,
65. I'm sorry.
That's right.
Yeah.
65 is when we sent them there.
When did they come back?
They came back in 78. They were there for 13 years. It was supposed to only be 10 years, but they lost track of the time because Serpo that particular planet has two suns in the sky, and the timekeeping was very difficult after their own timepieces stopped working.
Mm-hmm.
So they ended up spending 13 years there instead of 10. And of course, they didn't all come back. Only 7 came back.
Wow.
3 died, and 2 decided to stay there.
Here's a question that I think my listeners will want me to ask. What proof do we have that this really happened?
There we are. We're back to proof again.
Yeah.
I wish I could give you proof, but I can't. I'm not a lawyer, and so proof is not in my bailiwick. I just can't do it. I've written the book. You got all the information in the book, all the detailed information about what happened, how it happened, why it happened. You've got Spielberg's movie because he knew about it. You've got a lot of pieces that you've got to put together, okay, and say, is this true or isn't it? And as far as I'm concerned, the evidence is overwhelming. As far as you're concerned, probably not. I don't know.
Like I said, Len, I want to believe. I really do. I want to believe, but I want proof.
I like to believe you that you want to believe.
But I really do. I really do.
All right.
I'd love to have the proof in front of me to say, I get it now. Look.
Okay.
Here, look at the UFO on the front lawn of the White House. Look at the alien knocking on the White House door. That's the kind of proof I'd like to see. Or the whole thing about the Roswell crash. I'd love to know why instead of going directly back to the Air Force Base where Jesse Marcel came from, he puts all this flying saucer stuff, and instead of maintaining the chain of custody of the evidence, he drives to his house, wakes up his wife and kid, and lets them play with the material. Bang, case over.
He did that only. He only stopped there because he wanted them to see it. He wanted his son to see it, but he kept going after that.
But as soon as he stopped, the chain of custody was broken. No more.
Well,
case over.
Jesse Marcel was a very reliable securities guy. He was in charge of Operation Crossroads, the security where they first tested the atom bomb at the Bikini Atoll. So he was very trusted, but he took that particular detour just to show to his son what he discovered, because it was so weird, so crazy that an alien craft would have crashed there in New Mexico.
Hey, Len, we've got to say so long for tonight. Looking forward to hearing what you have to say at the Alien Cosmic Expo. Where can people get a copy of your book?
Get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes & Noble. You can get it on my website, through my website, www.et-secrethistory.com.
Len, take care of yourself. Love talking to you. You're a great
Rob.
guy.
Nice talking with you.
Take care, pal. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Wow, Len KASTEN. Yeah, I love the passion in his voice, but I want to see proof. Talk is cheap. Show me the proof. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Starcom Radio Network. Don't go away.